Here we go. Hello, welcome to the Go Grab That Day podcast. This is our usual MMA recap. The fight's just finished here in New Zealand about, what the fucking time is? Yeah, about 2 hours ago, so it's pretty fresh in the mind, which is the best time to do these recaps. What a fight card, I cannot wait to start talking about all of this. Before I do, hope everybody's doing well. Hope you're all safe and happy and all the other stuff. As usual, thanks everybody for the support and all that with the podcast. The numbers, as always, are still subscribers and stuff like that, still slowly climbing, which is great. Please keep sharing, keep liking, whatever you gotta do. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not going to do anything except put up my numbers. So please, if you're enjoying the content or if you just feel like supporting us, please give it a like. Also, I'm not sure if I said this last week or not. Things are a little slow at the moment, content-wise. I know we'll still have our recap videos out every week and the Paddy and the Pommy podcast. Just things in the background at the moment that are kind of restricting us content-wise, which I'll reveal down the line. Just stuff we're working on and will be revealed eventually. Yeah, but in time there's a heaps more content coming, many more projects coming, bigger ideas. So it's just a little slow at the moment. I'm just busy with other things, but yeah, it's not going to be like this forever. There will be a lot more interviews I've set up and stuff like that, but for now it will be just the recaps and Paddy and the Pommy podcast, stuff like that will still be going, but just a little slower than it has been at the start. But stick with us. It's going to get back to as crazy as it was a few weeks ago or a few months ago. But yeah, keep supporting us, please. As I always say, I'm enjoying this stuff. I love doing it. It's every day I'm coming up with new ideas for the channel, and got my little notebook there that's pretty much full already. So yeah, please keep supporting us, and if you know anybody that hasn't subscribed, hit them up, tell them, give it a click, give it a like, give it a subscribe, all that, please. Anyway, let's get into it. Very quickly, check out our affiliates. PPT Nutrition, Fitness and Nutrition. We have a link in the Instagram bio. Go check them out. One of the programs is in the link. They have heaps more, always doing challenges every few months. They're excellent. I've done one of their programs in the past. Really, really good. Also, check out Mystique Jerseys. We have a link in the bio as well. For great for gifts and stuff like that. If you're into football, GAA or rugby, brilliant for the jerseys. They can do any jersey you want. They can get it. Promo code Go Grab That Day, all caps, for a percentage off. So go check them out. And yeah, let's get into these fights. I cannot wait to talk about this. I was so excited for this card coming up. I know it's felt like, I think the whole Logan Paul Mayweather thing is, all that stuff has just been kind of, I don't know, felt weird the last few weeks. It feels like that's all we've been talking about, and now that we've had a big UFC card, it's been so good, so nice to get back to normal. What a fucking card, top to bottom. As always, I'm not going to talk about every single fight because it's hard to talk about every single fight, but I will talk about the biggest talking points. I have some notes here and stuff like that, but plenty to talk about. Before I get into the MMA and the UFC side of things, what a win for Clarissa Shields in her MMA debut in the PFL. Looked really good, to be fair. I just got the highlights of it. Unfortunately, the time difference was just impossible for me to watch it during work. But yeah, she dealt with a bit of adversity, during the fight. She was in a bit of trouble, and she did well, I wanted to mention her on this because there's so much talk of all these boxers calling MMA fighters into their world, where she has done the opposite, which is what we've been kind of looking to see, as a boxer step into the MMA world, it's always the question of, who's better, but I'm done having that debate. But no, like, credit to her, and it's a great thing to see. She went the opposite way to where, as I said, everybody wants to call the MMA fighters over for the big fights, and she looked good. I mean, again, I thought it was a mistake on their part for giving her that fight, because her opponent was 9-0, had 9 pro fights. Which I know she's not a big name, but I mean, I thought it was still 9 pro fights with probably a lot of amateur fights behind that. And she did put Shields in a little bit of trouble early on. But she went on to win the fight, third round, I believe. Third round TKO. And she threw, before the finish, or no, sorry, before she got in trouble, she was throwing some kicks as well, and it didn't look bad. I mean, it was good to see, and to go 3 rounds as well is going to be great for her to have felt what it's like in there. And yeah, man, she, like, I believe she's only 25, 26, so she's going to go on to do big things in the PFL, and who knows, maybe eventually get herself to the UFC. But we don't want to, it's early days yet. But nevertheless, she's got in there and she's done her thing. She has a win under her belt in MMA, which is brilliant. I'm delighted for her, and what a ballsy move on her behalf. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there, and then we'll get into the UFC card. I felt like there was something else I was going to talk about, but for some reason it's eluding me at the moment. Like always when I come on here, I tend to forget things. But anyway, running down through this card. So the early prelims, which we had not a lot of big talking points. We had Chase Hooper was fighting, which it didn't look great. Hooper, unfortunately, is a very talented fighter. I think he's just very young for the UFC. He's a guy that maybe needs a bit more time outside. Outside of that, where are we? A little side note. Anyone notices that my hands are a little bit trembly today? For the first time in months, yesterday I was hitting pads and holding pads, and my hands are absolutely in bits today. My shoulders are in bits. Every bit of me is in bits. Actually, while I'm talking about that, a little shout out to Shuriken MMA. I was at their gym yesterday doing a course for basically a boxing pad work course. A lot of fun. The coach Jason there, I spent a bit of time talking to. I just want to give them a shout out. It was great. Their facilities are unbelievable down there. They have the cage, full gym, full ring, really quality training facilities down there here in Auckland, New Zealand. But yeah, quality gym. So just shout out to Jason and the guys down there. I just wanted to say that because I've noticed while I'm typing, my hands are very trembly. I don't want people to think I'm, I don't want to say it, coming down off drugs or something like that, but it's not. It's just that I'm actually quite sore from. It's amazing what a pad workout can do for you, in terms of your whole body being sore. I am absolutely killed all over, and my hands in particular are killing me. Anyway, moving on from shaky hands, we were talking about Chase Hooper. We were talking about the early prelim card. Not a lot to talk about, but I am going to say one thing. Terrence McKinney, who made his, I believe it's his UFC debut. His UFC debut. I think he fought on Dana White's Contender Series. But I was reading before the fight, reading yesterday, that this guy, he was a promising wrestler. I'm sorry, but I can't remember where he's from. I know he's American, but what part of America I'm not sure about. A very promising wrestler, and apparently got into when partying something like when he was in college, and ended up basically, I don't know, pretty much overdosing on LSD or something like that, and he jumped through a window. But apparently he jumped through head first. I shouldn't laugh. Head first, smashing the window, and then pulled his head back through and ended up pretty much slicing his own throat. And supposedly he died twice in an ambulance on the way to the hospital and stuff, and pretty much almost killed himself. And went in today then for his debut and beat Matt Frivola in 7 seconds. 7 seconds, which is insane. Still not the fastest knockout ever, which is held by Jorge Masvidal. But what a debut! I mean, insane. And to beat Matt Frivola as well, who's well experienced, it's insane. So great performance by him. What else? Carlos Felipe and Jake Collier was a good fight, reasonable fight. At heavyweight, it's always fun. And Pani Kianza getting the decision win against Alexis Davis, which was not a bad fight either. Moving on to the prelims. Where are we? Hakeem Dawodu against Movsar Evloev. God, I don't always get a difficult name. This wasn't a bad fight. Evloev winning mostly using his grappling. There's another thing. I suppose while I'm on this, I wanted to talk about was the fans. It's been so long. I think it's been 3 or 4 events now where we've had fans in, and it's great. It's not 3 or 4. 2, I think, that we've had proper fans in. And I thought the fans were so bad for booing in this event. I mean, I know like people are going to cheer for their favourite and boo whoever they don't like, but I just thought they were constantly booing every time there was a bit of grappling. Anytime a non-American, no, I don't want to say non-American, but yeah, non-American fighter and like say a fighter that wasn't their fan favourite guy, they were booing even during the interviews. I just thought it was, I don't know, it's just stupid. That's my honest opinion. I've been to a couple of big UFC events over here, like, and I've never seen it that bad. I've seen, there's always booing and there's bigger cheers for whoever people like, but I just think that booing during the interviews when there's no need, like they booed Leon Edwards in his interview, obviously with Nate Diaz being the big fan favourite, which I understand that, but you don't need to boo the guy when he puts on a great performance. They booed Paul Craig. Why? Because he wasn't American. I just thought it was really stupid. My honest opinion, I thought it was just dumb. I mean, been so long without fans, and that's how they act, constantly booing. I thought it was really stupid. The commentators had spoke about it a little bit, and I know some fights can be boring and you want to boo them, but can't boo a fight every time there's a bit of grappling. I mean, it's MMA. Go and watch fucking boxing if you don't want to see that. It's so stupid. I thought it was irritating at parts. Makes you kind of, dare I say this, but it makes you kind of appreciate when the fans aren't at the events. I mean, I don't understand why people are booing. It's been so fucking long since they've been able to be at an event. Perhaps maybe it's they're spoiled with too many events. I don't know, but yeah, just that was annoying a little bit. It's just that Hakeem Dawood fight has reminded me of that. But anyway, good win for Evloev. Fucking fans. But yeah, no, I'll say no more, but I just thought it was stupid, the constant booing. Good win for Lauren Murphy against Joanne Calderwood. Possible shot at the one and only, the one and only, I can't think of her name, Valentina Shevchenko. So yeah, Lauren Murphy possibly getting a shot at her. Yeah, it was a good performance. She looked strong. She looked quite strong against a good fighter in Joanne Calderwood. And then we had light heavyweight fight, which probably didn't go the way most people thought. Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart. A lot of grappling on Eric Anders' part. Smart grappling, of course. All the fans weren't happy with that, booing, even though he got the win. But it didn't go the way I think most people thought. And both guys stepping up, for their rematch at light heavyweight instead of middleweight, which was quite interesting. Two big boys, very big boys. And then moving on to the fucking fight of the night. It's great when a fight, like I said with the Eric Anders and Darren Stewart fight, like I would have thought that might have been one of the fights of the night, and I thought this fight, Drew Dober and Brad Riddell, and it's great when a fight lives up to the hype, which this one did, and it did get, I believe it got the award for fight of the night, but let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure it did. I listened to some of the post-fight press conference. I didn't get all of it, and I just knocked it off when Dana was finished, but yeah, so they got fight of the night, rightly so. I'll read out all the bonuses here just to fucking ads. They got fight of the night. Who else? I think Moreno might have got performance of the night. Yeah, he got performance of the night, and I believe Paul Craig got performance of the night as well. Yeah, so that's the awards. But yeah, what a fight the Drew Dober and Brad Riddell fight is. I've been barking and talking about Riddell for quite a while now, and I'm hoping he's going to start getting some hype behind him. I've become such a big fan of Brad Riddell since he made his debut, and this was a tough fight. Jesus, Drew Dober's got a chin on him. I mean, Christ, he rocked Riddell at the start, rocked him hard, and Brad Riddell recovered with some good wrestling, but he caught Dober clean throughout the entire fight, and just like Drew Dober barely even flinched for a lot of it. Some of them in the later, I think it was the end of the third round, towards the end of the third, he rocked him hard. We finally saw Dober take a bit of a stutter step, but not, my God, he takes a shot. Seriously, he's made of fucking granite. But this was a great fight. It's a super win for Riddell, and I'm delighted for him. As I said, I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan since his debut. But what a fight. What an over and back fight. just a great striking display from both guys. Drew Dober is quality to watch as well, and I need a fucking baseball bat to knock him out. But yeah, delighted they got fight of the night. It was well earned, and of course Riddell giving a shout out to his fallen teammate Falvake, who I've spoken about before. I think it was last week's podcast or possibly the week before. I can't actually remember. But yeah, big future for Riddell in that division. He says, I mean, his fights have been so entertaining, from his Jamie Mullarkey fight when he debuted to this fight. It's been brilliant. He's always saying how he doesn't want to be getting into these like barn burner wars, but he doesn't. I think it's hard for him to avoid it as well. The snap and some of his kicks in the fight as well were insane. But a cracking fight. Really, really enjoyed watching it. And then we have, of course, after all of that, we have the main card, and the opening up the main card was Paul Craig versus Jamal Hill, which there was a bit of heat between these two boys in the build up to the fight. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what there. I saw there was a bit on the embedded shows. There was a couple of clips of them kind of arguing backstage and stuff like that. I'm not sure where this came from, or was it just because of the fight, or what it was. But what a win by Paul Craig. This was a case of Jamal Hill on the feet, Paul Craig on the ground, and who was going to get the better. But from the moment Craig, he immediately pulled guard, and he got Jamal Hill's arm in an awkward position. He got out, and then it repeated again. And then he got his arm, I don't even know what it was, but it looked like he snapped his arm in half. His arm was just flopping all over the place. It was like, I'm trying to think of what movie we've seen that in. Is it in Harry Potter where they turn his arm rubber? I believe it is. This scene here, this one. So anyway, yeah, his arm just looked disgusting, and I had to take a note of the ref, how the fuck he didn't stop the fight immediately, I don't know. Like, Craig had to point out to him, like, basically look at his arm. Jamal Hill, and like a lot of the fighters, they're not going to tap. Some will, of course, but I mean, a lot of them are too tough for their own good. And Paul Craig is pointing out to the ref, look at his arm. The ref is, fucking Steve Mazzagatti. Like, it wasn't Steve Mazzagatti, obviously, but he was just like him. Standing there looking, waiting for Jamal Hill for his heart to stop beating before he stops the fight. Because Paul Craig has him there landing elbows. He hasn't pulled into his guard, and he's just landing vicious elbows. Jamal Hill can't get out. His arm is literally just flopping like this. It looks like he's tapping. I don't know what the fucking ref was waiting for, but I think I shared it on whether it was Instagram or Facebook, that the ref should never work again. If you can't see that, when the crowd, the opponent, everyone else can see it, you should not be in there. I don't care, and I don't feel bad for the guy. You should not be in there, because someone is going to get badly hurt. And thankfully, I don't know how this is the case, but they come out afterwards saying that Jamal Hill's arm was just badly dislocated, not broken. I have never seen an arm go, I don't even know how to explain it. I didn't know you could dislocate your arm from the elbow down, or I don't know, I'm not a fucking doctor, but it did not look good. And how the ref didn't dive in straight away, I mean, it was insane. Like, his arm looked fucking rubber. Horrible. But what a win for Paul Craig. Paul Craig is vicious in his jiu-jitsu. Slowly kind of amassing a win streak as well. I think he's one of these guys who's quietly and sneakily putting together or gaining some traction, And he tends to kind of put on interesting fights. There's always a good build-up with him and stuff like that. Representing Scotland, of course. So great win for him. And thankfully Jamal Hill's arm is not snapped in 16 places like it looked like it was, but it's just apparently just popped out of place, and they popped it back in, moving fine again. It's just fucked up. But yeah, fuck that ref, and go do something else, because you don't know what you're doing. I don't know the guy's name, but apparently he's a local ref in, where the fuck was the fight on? Arizona, wasn't it? I think it was Arizona. Wherever he was, he should not ref again. Go do something else. You don't know what you're at, or else you had too poor a night for you to ever ref again. Anyway, that's enough. Moving on. We had Damian Maia versus Belal Muhammad. I thought Maya could possibly cause an upset here, possibly, because it's one of those fights where you could see it kind of happening, but he wasn't in this fight at all. Muhammad just defended it. I don't know that he breaks the record for the amount of takedowns he defended, but it looked like he did. Just constantly defending. Maya kept going with the same single leg all the time. Just grabbing the one leg, trying to get him down rather than changing it up to a double leg or something. Just changing it up a bit different. Driving through with a just something different. He kept going for the same single all the time, and it became easier for Bilal Muhammad to defend it. So Dana White had said in the post-fight press conference that they had asked him, is that the last fight for Maya? And he said, yeah, that pretty much it was the last one on his contract, and that's most likely the last one. You can understand. I mean, he's 44 now, had a great career. I mean, Maya's a legend, probably one of the best in terms of jiu-jitsu and grappling. I mean, you've got him, you've got Jacare, he's up there with all those guys. Legend of the sport, and apparently, what I hear, like one of the nicest guys in the sport ever, which he seems that way too. But I mean, that guy has got opportunities afterwards. I'm sure he could coach if he's not doing it already. I mean, what a better guy, coaching for jiu-jitsu and MMA. It's hard to find a better guy for it. So maybe retire, or not retire from MMA and continue with your, competing in jiu-jitsu. You just don't want to see, he's 44 now, you don't want to see him. He's had a long career. You don't want to see any more punishment taken. But a good win for Bilal Muhammad after, his last fight against Leon Edwards where he got the bad eye poke. So it's good for him to get a win under his belt. Pretty one-sided fight, to be honest. It wasn't an ass-whooping for Damian Maia, but he was just never really in the fight, to be fair. Bilal Muhammad was just, I don't want to say it was easy for him, but wasn't the toughest night. Sorry. Moving on. We have, of course, the first of the three big fights. I say big fights and all the fucking fights we've had already, but was, of course, Rocky Edwards versus Nate Diaz, which is the first 5-round non-title fight ever, which I thought was weird. I thought there was fights that were non-titles before, but obviously not. This fight kind of went how I thought it would. I just thought I wanted Diaz to get a win. Well, I didn't really. I wanted Diaz to look good at least. What a legend. I was thinking of this all week. I mean, is there anybody out there who makes, someone like Diaz who makes little or no effort in press conferences, with his online content, stuff like that, and yet he's a superstar? There's nobody out there like that. You see him in the press conferences, man, he has no interest in being there. He answers like you just after waking him up, and yet he has superstar written all over him. I'm not disputing that he is a superstar, but it's just so cool to see that he's a superstar with absolutely no effort whatsoever. It's brilliant. I love to see that. And he is a legend. He unfortunately got pretty much picked apart in this fight, which I did think he would. He made it fun and interesting like he always does, but Edwards is quality. I mean, he just, I don't know if it was Joe Rogan or Paul Feller that said it during the fight, that Edwards just wastes, he doesn't waste any punches or any strikes, doesn't waste any energy. Everything is technical, it's for a reason. Just so well rounded. Landed heavy leg kicks, which Diaz kind of played it off a bit. There is one thing I will say. I know it kind of goes back on what Diaz was well beaten in this fight, but I do think had he put a little more pressure on Edwards, because there was times where he did do it, and his quick 1-2 down the pipe would either come very close or it would land, but there was just no follow-up pressure afterwards. It was a one-sided fight, kind of, as a lot of people thought, but there were parts where I thought Diaz could have put more pressure on Edwards, just to, I don't know, just make it more difficult for him, but it's easier said than done. You see the leg kicks he was taking as well. But towards the end of the 5th round, of course, he lands probably the most significant strike of the whole fight with a quick 1-2. Completely rocked Edwards. Completely rocked him. And I just didn't think Diaz was... I don't know, he just didn't seem interested enough to put more pressure. I thought if he'd done that, he actually could have finished the fight. I thought if he rushed in a little bit, he could have finished the fight, but maybe he was trying to play it safe, I'm not sure. But yeah, what a finish to the fight. One thing about him is he can probably get his ass whooped, 3 times a year, and he just seems to never lose fans or anything like that, which that's just who he is. It's because of his character, because of all that. He was well beaten tonight, but he definitely saved face at the end of the fight where he rocked Edwards hard. It looked to me, even maybe I'm wrong, but it even looked to me that in the interview with Rogan afterwards, in the cage, that Edwards still looked a little, for me, he'd still looked a little out of it. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but yeah, great performance for Edwards. I loved the sweeps he was doing, where he would, he was kicking Diaz's lead leg a lot, obviously, but then he did it 2 or 3 times where he'd completely sweep him, both feet out from underneath him. Yeah, it was cool. You don't see that too often. And he bust Diaz up. I mean, obviously Nate has a ton of scar tissue, and you see in a lot of previous fights it's not easy for him to get cut up, but he opened a massive cut on the side of his head, and then he opened up one on his left brow or right brow, I'm not sure which. But that's your typical, you're not going to have a Diaz fight without blood. That's just how they are. But great performance from Leon Edwards. I wanted to speak a little bit on the welterweight division. I know, apparently, I didn't see this tweet, but someone had said in the press conference afterwards, the bit I heard, that Usman come out saying that Leon Edwards hasn't done enough, and he doesn't know who deserves the shot next, which Kamaru has earned the right to pick his fights, I believe, because he's been super busy as a title holder. I believe he's been super busy. My critique is of the rest of the division, other than Leon Edwards. A lot of these guys like the Colbys and stuff like that who have, a lot of them have been turning down fights, all waiting for Kamaru Usman. But that's never usually the case. I mean, it should be Kamaru that is sitting there picking his fights, not these guys that want the belt. Then you have Leon Edwards, who's on a 9-fight win streak, who's been looking for fights but can't seem to get them. I, being honest, think he deserves the next title shot, even though they're saying it's going to be Colby. But yeah, for me, Leon Edwards should get the next title shot. You're in a 9-fight win streak. What more do you need, really? But I suppose they can put it down to the fact that he has lost to Kamaru previously, which so has Colby. But I think the Colby fight is obviously a bigger... I'm not saying I don't want to see that fight. I do definitely want to see that fight. But I just think Edwards definitely deserves his title shot now. But so, like, if Colby is next, who knows what's going to happen with Edwards in between. Maybe he'll get that Masvidal fight or something, I'm not sure. But I definitely believe he has earned a title shot. But we'll see what happens, you never know. But Dana did say in the post-fight press conference today that it's Colby is next, so we'll see. The build-up of that fight will still be great, I'm not disputing that or anything, but anyway, yeah, sure my notes are all good. Yeah, the next fight was the co-main, which was Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. Out of all of the fights, the one person I really wanted to win tonight was Brandon Moreno. I thought he deserved it more than anyone. He seems to be... It's so hard not to like the guy. He seems super humble. Obviously, first Mexican champion. He won tonight, obviously, so first Mexican champion, but just seems like a really good character, real fun character. He's different. There's something different about him where he's so chill. He's like... I don't know, he's like a kid almost who's been given a shot in the UFC. But for a guy, I watched his season on The Ultimate Fighter where they had like a ranking system, and he was ranked super low and went on. I don't believe he won it, did he? He went on to do really well, and then went on to be eventually let go from the UFC to winning a title outside of the UFC, then coming back in, going on a big run, and giving Davison Figueiredo the best fight he's ever had, and then getting the rematch and absolutely demolishing Davison Figueiredo, which nobody does. Nobody does that. I mean, he dropped him in the first round with a jab. His jab looked brilliant. He just looked brilliant, well-rounded, even on the ground. Obviously, he won via submission in round 3. They looked excellent. I mean, I think there's big moments I remember in the UFC. One that comes to mind right now, obviously you have the McGregor double champ thing. You have, there's massive moments. Like there's for me, one that comes to mind is Amanda Nunes beating Cyborg. It's always a big moment for me, but I think there's heaps of others. Like I said, McGregor double champ. Probably maybe this for me goes down. And my point is this is one of those moments I believe where it's going to live on forever. I think it's just a character like him to be the first Mexican champ. It's a classic moment, and I'm beyond happy for him. Out of all the fighters tonight, I wanted to see him win because the odds were stacked against him. Even Dana came out saying it in the press conference that he really didn't think he was going to win. Which it's honest for Dana to say that. But delighted for Moreno, and if you see his reaction afterwards, obviously he choked out Figueiredo. He didn't choke him out. Figueiredo tapped, but got the choke. The referee stopped it, and Moreno gets up, walks around the cage slowly, and then it's like it hits him, and he just drops and gets all emotional. And it was a really cool moment, and again one of those big moments in the UFC. And what a no better guy to be representing Mexico. He's a fun character, and that's it. That's considering that division was going to be scrapped at one point. I mean, these guys have for sure put a big stamp with that division to keep it around. I can see Davison Figueiredo stepping up in weight now. I don't believe. Well, obviously he was champion, so you can't say that he didn't really belong in that division. But he was struggling to make weight. I mean, they were celebrating again this week after he made weight, and he just made it in time. So yeah, I think step up and weight. Fun fights from up there too. Still a great fighter, he was outclassed tonight. It happens. But still some fun fights for him, but I would like to see him go up and weight because he's over time going to do more harm than good to his body by cutting that weight all the time. And you see him walking into the cage or walking up to weigh in, he's every drop of water sucked out of his body. It is not good. And like when they're celebrating like that all the time when he makes weight, it tells you that the weight cuts aren't easy. So what a performance from Brandon Moreno. And for me, as a massive MMA fan and UFC fan, that's a moment I'll remember. There's a lot of them, obviously. Like I always mention the Amanda Nunes one. That's one for me that I'll always remember. I think it's a special moment for a character like him, as I said, that I am a fan of. But then after all that madness, we've got still one more fight. So the main event, which was Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. I think this one kind of played out the way people sort of expected, that Adesanya would pick him apart. It was pretty much a striking clinic. Vittori was never really in the fight. Got a few takedowns, which Adesanya defended very well and got up most times. All times. There was no moment where he was in major trouble. I just don't think Vittori was in the fight throughout the fight. There was never a point where he was, completely out of it or staggering on his feet. He was just slowly getting picked apart. Kind of, his legs were getting pretty. Well, mainly his lead leg was getting mashed up with kicks, which credit to him because he didn't really show his when he got kicked a few times later in the fight, he went over obviously, but he didn't show or he didn't wince too much when he was getting kicked. So he had a good poker face for that. But yeah, Adesanya pretty much picked him apart, and he also kind of sent a message out that people were kind of hoping that he had showed a flaw in his game after the Blachowicz fight with his grappling. But he did well against Vettori tonight. Vettori got some big takedowns and Adesanya popped right back up, showed some great defense, and at one point Vettori got him in a choke, a rear naked choke, and Adesanya spun out of it and then put Vettori in trouble with landing strikes on top of him. But it's a joy to watch Adesanya striking. I mean, it's like I often say, and I don't think he likes when people say this, but he really is Anderson Silva. The new version. He's so like him, but again, a much newer version. It's the Adesanya era. Sorry, the Adesanya era, not I can't believe I just said that. The Adesanya era. But anyway, Christ, So yeah, what a performance. One thing in particular I loved about the fight is he kept, because he was throwing, say, his left leg to Vittori's right leg. Is that right? Yeah. So he kept hitting Vittori's lead leg, but he would keep faking with his rear leg. So you keep throwing it up the middle, do it a couple of times just to get Vittori to faint, and then he'd smash him with the other leg. And it was really nice the way he did that, continuously getting him to faint, getting him to feed off feints. Just, again, a masterclass. Vittori was not by any means, he was definitely outclassed, but I mean, he wasn't by any means completely beaten down. His cardio seemed to hold up. I know his coach, Rafael Cordero, didn't seem too happy in the corner with him in between rounds, but I just think Vittori did not have an answer. And I mean, even say towards the end, like in the dying seconds of the fight, he dived for a takedown and pushed Adesanya up against the cage. But I mean, not really. Like usually, when you know you've lost heavily, like 4 rounds to nothing, going into the end of the 5th round, you're going to want to try and land a heavy shot or a haymaker or something. Just, swing for the fence, hope for the best. But the last thing you want to do is dive for a takedown. Yeah, I just think Vittori was outclassed by a far better striker. Didn't really have an answer for anything. But he was in the fight throughout, constantly trying to find some way to get the win or to do something to change the fight. But no, he was never really in the fight at any point. Like at the first round, Adesanya threw a kick which Vittori caught and put him on his back, and then you were thinking, shit, this could be a long night. But that was it. After that, when Adesanya popped up, he never really got any closer than that. Adesanya was constantly fighting off the takedowns. There was obviously that time where he got the rear naked, but Adesanya popped out of that too. His defense, takedown defense, looked excellent. Yeah, so great performance from him. He also gave a shout out to Falvaka after the fight, which was nice. Obviously being another teammate of his, and called out. They had asked him who he wanted to fight next, and he mentioned Whittaker, which is, yeah, obviously that is the next fight when you think about it. The thing is, there isn't a ton of options there for him. You look at maybe Darren Till in the future and stuff like that, but it's not exactly like the fight stamped or ingrained. Yeah, so Whittaker is probably the only person, really. Not the only person, but it probably is the next fight. He did say, or Dana White said in the post-fight press conference, I haven't heard Adesanya talking on it yet, but Dana White had said that even before this fight, Adesanya was saying he wanted to fight again in October, which is quite crazy. And he said in the interview with Rogan in the cage that he wanted to fight Whittaker here in Auckland, New Zealand. But I don't think they're going to get Auckland, New Zealand by October. But maybe next year, who knows? Be interesting. I think he has earned the right to call for a home fight. Whether they give him that, I don't know, because obviously he's a massive superstar now as well. And they kind of want him selling out the big arenas in America. But again, great performance. Pretty much, you don't want to say flawless, because he obviously was taken down, but he fought them off so well. He answered a lot of questions. Cardio looked great, striking looked great, and Vittori looked really big when he got into the cage. And then when Adesanya came out, it's just his height and everything. I think the fact because he's quite lean and slim, you kind of forget how big he actually is too. But he looks strong, and yeah, great performance. What a fight card all round. But yeah, some big wins on that card, and you kind of wonder. I think Whittaker is the best fight for Adesanya, but you kind of wonder if he beats him, what is there left to do? I mean, does he try and go up in weight again, which didn't work out before? Yeah, I don't know, but that Whittaker fight still it's one that'll be worth the watch, because you would imagine you're not going to get the same Robert Whittaker that you got when Adesanya took the belt off him. So yeah, that is the only one I would be excited for. Eventually a Darren Till fight, maybe. But I mean, Till still needs to get a couple of wins together first. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's all my notes as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We got through it a little quicker than I thought I would. But yeah, what a performance by Adesanya, Moreno, Edwards, Riddell, a lot of those, Paul Craig. Some big wins on that card tonight. And some big statements made. So yeah, looking forward to how all of these divisions play out in the coming months. I'll have a quick look forward to next week, which is of course a smaller card now after such a big one this week. Good fight on the main. We have, I'll quickly run through the card, I say the prelims. We have Casey O'Neill versus Lara Procopio, something like that. Joaquim Silva versus Rick Glenn. Josh Parisian versus Rocky Martinez. Julian Arosa versus Choi Sung Woo. Kanako Murata versus Verna Jandaroba. And that's the prelim card. And then the main card we have, kicking off the main card. There's actually some good fights on this card. So kicking off the main card will be Matt Brown versus Diego Lima, which is a fun fight. Then you have Wellington Turman versus Bruno Silva. Why have they not got a picture of Bruno Silva? I don't know. Then you have Marlon Vera versus Davy Grant. Fun fight. That's a tough one for Davy Grant. Tim Means versus Danny Roberts. Fun fight. Alexei Olenek versus Sergey Spivak. Not a bad fight. And then the main event, which is Chang Sung Young, otherwise known as the Korean Zombie, versus Dan 50k Ige. So yeah, not a bad card. We'll have a couple of smaller fight cards over the next few weeks in the build up to McGregor versus Poirier 3, which should be a fun one to break down eventually. But that's enough for this week. You've heard enough of my voice. So that's it, folks. Really appreciate you listening as always and watching, for those of you that bothered to watch. But please keep supporting us, all that stuff. As I keep saying, we have a lot of fun things in the oven, in the works, in the whatever you want to call it, but in process, the best way to put it. Some fun things coming up, so please stick with us. There will be heaps more content coming into the future, and just at the moment we're a little quiet. As I said, there's things going on behind the scenes that we're working on, but please bear with us, keep supporting. But for now, you will still always get the recaps and stuff like that. So thank you, folks. Go grab that day. Appreciate it. Love you.